Okay, today we are making baked steak. I've had this recipe requested multiple times. I have 2 packages of round steak, which is not a tender cut of meat. I'm going to take and cut each one of these, you can see, into thirds this way. So I get 3 steaks, if you will, out of each package. I'm going to go ahead and do that first, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, now there's not a lot of ingredients that go into this, so it's super easy, flavorful. I've got my meat cut up, you can see, into 6 steaks. I have a Ziploc bag with a cup of flour, just self-rising, all-purpose. It doesn't matter, just a cup of flour. I'm going to add to that an envelope of onion recipe soup mix. I'm going to put that in there and mix it around. Then I'm going to add in our standard seasoning. I'm going to put in a tablespoon of onion powder. I want the onion flavor to be forward. And a teaspoon and a half of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of black pepper, and 1 teaspoon of salt. The only reason I'm using 1 teaspoon of salt is because this mix has salt in it, and you don't want to over-season your steaks. So we're going to mix these spices and this soup mix into this bag of flour, shake it around. Then we're going to drop those steaks in one at a time and coat them on both sides. Meanwhile, over here, I've got a skillet with a half a stick of butter. And so it's 4 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. The butter is for flavor and it raises the smoke point of the olive oil. So after we dredge these steaks in the flour mixture, we're going to put them in the pan and brown them on both sides. So let's go ahead and get to that step. I'll have to do them in 2 batches because my skillet's not big enough and I don't want to get my big one out. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll take you to the next step. Okay, you can see my oil is hot. The butter's almost melted. I'm getting a tiny bit of smoke. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit over medium-high heat. I've got one of my steaks dropped in there. I'm going to close this bag, shake this around until this is well coated, and put in my pan 3 at a time. And let them start browning. When it gets brown on one side, I'm going to flip it over and brown the other. I'll show you. Okay, actually it only fits 2 at a time in there. So that skillet's smaller than I thought. But I'll do 2 at a time. And when it's finished browning on both sides, then I'm going to put that in the well of my slow cooker. After they brown, I'll just layer them in there. And then we'll show you the next step. Super easy. And while our meat is browning, here's our slow cooker. We are going to empty 1 quart of beef broth into the well of that slow cooker. Just dump it right down in there. And you'll think, oh, well, that's not enough. It is. It'll be enough. It'll be fine. You put it down in there, and we're going to layer our meat in. As it browns, we're going to put it in there. And I'll show you what we're going to do after that. See how nice and brown we let that get? We're going to do that to all our steaks on each side. And one thing I meant to tell you, reserve 1 tablespoon or a quarter cup of that beef broth that you put in that crock pot. Just put it back out because we're going to use that to deglaze this pan when we're finished after we take all the steaks out of here. So save back a quarter cup of your beef broth because it's still going to go in the crock pot. We're going to need it when we're finished doing these steaks. And we'll let these about 3 to 4 minutes aside, just get nice and brown. Put them in our crock pot in that beef broth. Okay, this is finished, browned on both sides, going in my crock pot, which I'm trying to do backwards. Alright, now, there's little brown bits in that pan. What are we going to do? We're going to pour that little bit of beef broth that I reserved back. We're going to zhuzh this around, scrape up all those little bits. Make sure we get it all. And we're going to turn it off and pour that right in the crock pot because that is all flavor. One last step. This remainder of flour. We're going to put that in there and sprinkle it all over the top. Make sure our steaks are in there evenly. And then we're going to pop this in our crock pot. We are going to do it on 5 hours at high temperature. And when it's finished, it will have made its own gravy. It will be so amazing and delicious. You won't believe how easy it is. Okay, that's what it looks like before I turn it on. You have to realize that beef broth is going to bubble up over that. So I'm going to set it, turn it on, let it cook, and then we'll show you what it looks like. And there she goes. And I mean, I'm not a salesman for a Ninja all-in-one cooker, but I'm going to tell you what, this thing is amazing. It air bakes, pressure cooks, slow cooks or crock pots, whatever, broils, bakes. I love it. And it's one piece of equipment on my counter and not 15. So anyway, 5 hours on high. We will check it, and I think it'll be perfect. Thanks. And that's what that gorgeous baked steak looks like. It's got rich gravy. I've already dipped out of this. I forgot. Everybody was hungry, but it's got rich gravy. Delicious, tender baked steak. Lifts right out of there, comes apart. It's cooked for 4.5 hours on high heat, and it's wonderful. Hope you all enjoy.